Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Later today, North Carolina will start feeling the effects of a major winter storm. And let me remind you, this is a snowstorm, not a snowfall. It's serious. In the Piedmont to the western parts of our state, we're preparing for days of impact, not hours. Winter storm warnings will be in effect across much of our state. And wherever you are in North Carolina, you are likely to feel the effect of this storm in some way. Snow and sleet will stretch east from the mountains and the foothills and into the Triad and Charlotte this evening and into the early morning hours. After midnight, snow and ice are expected to start falling in the Triangle. Snowfall could be seen as far east as Greenville and Goldsboro. Eastern North Carolina can expect heavy rain, gusty wind, and some coastal flooding and beach erosion. Duke Energy warns that the storm could cause up to 500,000 power outages in our state. Finish doing what you need to do today. Tonight and tomorrow, it's time to hunker down and to stay safe. Winter storms are especially tricky to predict in North Carolina, so keep a close eye on the changing conditions. Even if current forecast doesn't show snow or ice expected where you live, that could change over the next 12 or 24 hours. Snow and ice will make roads treacherous. Plan to stay off the road when the rain or snow starts. Even if conditions are okay where you are, they may not be where you're going. This weekend isn't the time to head out to see some winter wonderland. Stay safe where you are. Getting out on dangerous roads could put your life at risk. It also gets in the way of first responders and road crews who will be hard at work trying to keep us safe and clear our roads. North Carolina is ready for this storm, and I encourage people to make sure that their family, their friends, and neighbors are ready as well. Yesterday, I issued a statewide state of emergency and activated National Guard troops. Our Emergency Operations Center is activated, and key partners are here, including Emergency Management, Department of Transportation, the Highway Patrol, the National Guard, and our utilities. In addition to snow and ice on our roads, we're concerned about power outages with this storm. It doesn't take much wind. It doesn't take a whole lot of wind to bring down limbs and trees, especially after a heavy, wet snow and ice. Our utilities have brought in more than 1,500 crews from other states so that they can spring into action to get the power back on. There are also steps that you need to take to get your family ready. Hope many of you have already started doing this. Update your emergency supplies, including a 3-day supply of food, fresh batteries for your flashlights, dress in layers to stay warm, stay indoors during the storm as much as you can, and plan to keep your pets indoors or in a sheltered situation as well. If you lose power and you want to use an alternate heat source, make sure you know how to use it safely. Operate generators and grills outside only and away from open windows or doors to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. And again, I urge avoiding driving on snow or ice-covered roads. If you absolutely must travel, clear your car of snow and ice before you drive, slow down, and leave room between you and other vehicles. Check road conditions before you leave on drivenc.gov, and keep an emergency kit in your vehicle, including ice scraper, jumper cables, tow chain, blankets, flashlight, first aid kit. You can find more tips on preparing for winter weather at readync.org. Here with me today is North Carolina's team that is set to respond to this storm. I have Public Safety Secretary Eric Hooks, Transportation Secretary Jim Trogdon, Emergency Management Director Mike Sprayberry, North Carolina National Guard General Todd Hunt, Highway Patrol Colonel Glenn McNeil, the commander of the Highway Patrol, and I have Lee Williamson here, who is our sign language interpreter. I'm going to ask Mike Sprayberry if he can give us an update of our Emergency Operations Center. Mike.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. As a significant winter storm begins to unfold across North Carolina, we planned the response with our state emergency response team partners. We know this is going to be a widespread state event. We've activated the state EOC along with our regional coordinating centers so we can provide the full spectrum of disaster response capability to all impacted areas. As the governor noted, our state agencies, volunteer agencies, utilities, and private sector are all standing by, ready to respond to the storm's impacts. Again, we can't overemphasize that our residents and visitors should stay off the roads during this event so our first responders and utility crews can do their jobs. As always, follow the instructions of your local officials and stay tuned to your local media for situational awareness. Thank you for your support of the North Carolina State Emergency Response Team. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike. I'll now call on Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Jim Trogdon. Jim.
Thank you, sir. Since yesterday morning, NCDOT has been continuing our anti-icing operations, and based on the revised weather forecast and new winter weather advisory, extended that coverage of anti-icing a little bit east of I-95 into those counties in the advisory area. Our crews placed an additional 1.1 million gallons of anti-icing agents since yesterday morning, and we will be completing those activities today and transitioning our crews that will report tonight and tomorrow into snow plowing and salt spreading operations after the storm hits. So we are ready to respond to this storm and do recommend that folks, before they leave, visit drivenc.gov and do not travel if it's not necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And now the commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol, Colonel Glenn McNeil.
Thank you, Governor. In participation with our state and local partners, the State Highway Patrol stands ready to assist as we await the incoming winter storm. Troopers across the state are prepared to mobilize and respond to the impacted areas when called upon. Our message is synonymous with that of Governor Cooper's. The public safety is paramount. Driving conditions will diminish throughout the day as snow and ice begin to fall along our roadways. Motorists are encouraged, please don't travel in the impacted areas if you don't have to. But if you must travel, make sure that you have a plan. Clear your vehicle of snow and ice so that would prevent flying debris from your vehicle. Make sure that your cell phone is fully charged in the event that you need it in an emergency. And if you are involved in a collision, remove your vehicle from the roadway if the collision is minor. This will prevent secondary events from occurring, which are more often more serious than the original event. For up-to-date roadway conditions, please visit drivenc.gov and please remain safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. We'll be glad to take any questions that you might have.
I guess since the storm's not here yet, are you worried that...
Grab that mic if you will. Yep.
I guess since the storm hasn't shown itself yet, are you worried that North Carolinians will underestimate this and not realize that this storm is coming as quickly as this?
This is early for North Carolina to be talking about this kind of winter storm. So I know we have a situation in our state where we are often on the line of frozen precipitation or not. And you never know exactly where that line is going to be. The meteorologists do a pretty good job, but it's hard to tell exactly. I do believe, though, that particularly in the Piedmont, the mountains, and the Charlotte area, people know that this is serious. They're looking at a foot of snow, and that is something that they are taking serious. I feel confident about that. I think people in the Triangle East may not be taking this as serious, and when you look at the potential for some significant snowfall in the Triangle, we want people to be prepared. It's better to do too much than too little, because you can find yourself in a difficult situation, and that's why we're encouraging people to be careful. Any other questions? Right, yes.
Going off that, I mean, we just finished just a few months ago preparing for hurricanes, those kind of disasters. So for people that have done that, you know, what are the similarities between preparing for something like that and preparing for this winter storm?
North Carolina has had experience in preparing for disasters. We have just had 2 hurricanes that have torn through our state. I believe that the quality of our response is tied to the coordination that we have with our local governments, local emergency management officials, our federal officials, our utilities, our private businesses, and our volunteer organizations. And here at our Emergency Operations Center, all of that is coordinated. I know that people can get tired of these kinds of disasters, but we should not let down our guard for a minute, because we do not want to lose lives. We want to minimize the economic damage. I know in many parts of our state that were hit by the hurricane that kids missed a lot of school. We really don't want to miss any more school days for those kids. So I know that there will be a lot of work done to try to clear our roads after this storm leaves, to get us back to business and back to school as soon as possible. I think we're ready for it, and we will continue to work hard to do that. All right, I think we will see you again at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. It could be that we would do something before then, but I doubt it. It'll probably be at 11 tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Hills and mountains of North Carolina. Big story. Over the last several days, we had a nice, a good show last night to recap the latest on that, and now we have some additional updates for you this morning. So quickly, let's go into the headlines. Rapidly deteriorating conditions expected later tonight, early tomorrow morning in the western North Carolina mountains, really all over the Carolinas, but that's where we're going to, but western North Carolina into parts of the Piedmont are where we're going to see a lot of that heavy precipitation in the form of snow, very likely, but also ice and sleet mixing in. And this is still, you know, we're still going to have precipitation type issues for a while on this, and it's evolving into a nowcast at this point. So we made our best stabs, and now we need to see how it plays out. We do want to highlight the potential for freezing rain in the Piedmont of North Carolina, stretching into the upstate of South Carolina, Charlotte, Raleigh, Greenville. Definitely something to watch there. And again, that uncertainty around the precipitation totals is something that is really going to be the fly in the ointment. We're kind of all waiting on the edge of our seats with this to see how this plays out. The other part, too, that it doesn't get as much play, but is something that is going to be almost equally disruptive, at least for a time, in coastal areas, including downtown Charleston, potential for tidal flooding Sunday morning as tides will head over 8 feet. And then there's also the potential for those tides to coincide with some very heavy rain. And so we may see significant travel disruptions in downtown Charleston. Preparations are being made now for the potential for significant flooding in the downtown area tomorrow morning, roughly anywhere from 7 a.m. to noon. That's the current thinking there. So definitely something to watch. This show is going to focus on the winter weather threat. We're going to talk a little bit more about flooding a little later today. And so you'll want to just keep an eye out for that. We'll have more information on that as it goes. Still some uncertainty there. But let's look at the winter storm alerts here. Again, we have winter storm warnings now extending as far east as Raleigh. That was a change overnight. The midnight shift at Weather Service Raleigh decided to extend the winter storm warnings eastward. They've also extended winter weather advisories pretty close to the coast at this point, basically, just inland of the coastal counties in eastern North Carolina. So this is in the I-95 corridor. We may see some sleet and snow and maybe even some freezing rain. Freezing rain is definitely a concern from Raleigh to Charlotte, but snow is also certainly potentially big deal in the mountains and in the foothills, getting into the central Piedmont and into Greensboro and those areas here. And those winter storm warnings extend all the way into northeast Georgia. We do have a winter storm watch that continues. This winter storm watch continues generally for the rest of the upstate south of I-85 and then and just north of 20. And then generally south of 20 we're going to be dealing with all rain. But we're still going to watch those areas to see what the precipitation type stuff does. Those may be upgraded to winter weather advisories later today. Remember, watch to advisory is an upgrade. It's not a downgrade. It's an upgrade. It means something is happening. It might not be the most disruptive, but it means something is happening. So something to keep in mind there as you listen for these winter weather headlines coming out from the National Weather Service in your respective location later today. Let's go to the radar here. We're getting some reports of rain falling, generally in the Midlands and in Georgia here. Been looking at some MPing reports this morning. We talked about MPing last night. Melissa did. Great tool. Highly recommend it. Please send in your reports. We've had a couple reports of flurries, generally around the North Carolina-South Carolina border, very much in the in the mountains area, in the mountains at higher elevations. We've had some reports this morning. So watching that closely. Again, this rain will set in and help set in the surface wedge that is beginning to build southward. So looking at the surface map here, we see a little high pressure centered over Virginia. This is going to wedge south. And the big question is this low, which is now roughly, a little east of Texas over Louisiana. That low and that high, as they play together, let's see how far north the warm air can go, and let's see how far south the cold air can go at the surface. And then we got to watch the overrunning on top, where some warm advection from the south may will definitely play a part in throwing a wrench in this precipitation type total. So here's the latest modeling from the high resolution rapid refresh model. This was run around 8 o'clock this morning. And so taking a look at this, you see the precipitation shield evolving over northern North Carolina, western North Carolina. And as this moves in, something to note is that we're rain most of the day, but as we get later tonight, as we get, around midnight, 1 a.m., we start to see the snow really begin to pick up in the mountains, and then we get into potentially sleet and freezing rain further south, mixing in with snow. So again, this is a model's guess at precipitation type. It's not going to be this exact. Don't put too much faith in exact boundaries. These precipitation type boundaries are going to ebb and flow with time. But this general idea of what the thinking is pretty much backs it up very well. Let's take a look at the snowfall forecast from the National Weather Service. And again, last night we were thinking maybe, the Carolina Weather Group was thinking, maybe not so much snow in Raleigh, but now that has changed. A significant increase in snow from the National Weather Service forecast over there, but we're looking at 14.7 inches still possible in the mountains here in North Carolina. And so this is a snowfall forecast again, and this, Charlotte could see very tight gradient here towards the south. It's going to be interesting to see, very, very sharp, and then a distance of 20 miles could separate you from a foot of snow from less than 4 to 6 inches or even lower. So again, it all depends on how much sleet mixes in, how much freezing rain happens. So let's talk ice. And icing threat, certainly a concern from Raleigh down to Charlotte into Greenville. And this is something that we're going to need to watch closely for significant travel impacts. Not seeing much in the way of the quarter size, the quarter-inch accretion that we look for particularly damaging ice storm event. However, ice and snow combined with wind could cause some pretty significant power outages, and we want people to be prepared for that possibility. So again, what to expect, let's break it down a little bit just by region by region. Western central North Carolina, later today, tonight, temperatures will fall, snowfall begins. It's going to be heavy at times. Still thinking that a band is going to set up over the mountains with some orographic lift from the low, and it's going to be nasty. It's going to be nasty up there. And in upstate South Carolina, the risk for freezing rain, sleet, snow mix will increase overnight into Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. The low is going to move north. It's going to continue to draw cold air down as that and help build that wedge in as well. And so that overrunning is going to continue to cause precipitation type problems well into Sunday. Midland's main concern here is rain. Same with the low country. And again, localized flooding around rivers. We have rivers in flood. There will be more rivers in flood. So be listening for those river flood warnings. And then in the low country, again, coastal flood advisory is pretty much a guarantee for much of the low country of South Carolina, and probably all the way up into the Grand Strand too. Coastal flooding is almost a certainty with this. Is very tight, strong onshore winds. We have gale warnings now out in the coastal waters. So some very heavy wind, very heavy rain, and high tide will combine Sunday morning, looking to provide some potentially serious travel impacts for much of the state. So again, Sunday's a good stay inside day. Today's a pretty good stay inside day. It's been very chilly, about 47 here in Charleston as of this recording. 50 will be charitable in many spots, and it's going to continue to trend cooler as the day goes on for the north as that cold air wedges down. Again, taking a look at that surface map, that wedge of high pressure is going to sharpen, build southward. This low will help tighten that wedge, and it's going to be a nasty few days. So again, best thing to do is stay up to date with us. The Carolina Weather Group will be tweeting. We'll be on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. As needed, we're going to be starting up some 24-hour broadcasting around noon or so. To keep you informed, we'll carry press conferences from the North Carolina Emergency Management. Haven't seen anything from South Carolina on this yet, but if that happens, we will try and carry it and keep you posted as best as possible. Again, using these channels, listen to us in the podcast. We will, remains to be seen if we're going to do a special show tonight, but we'll keep you posted on that. Follow our social channels, and we'll let you know. But for now, I'm Jared Smith with the Carolina Weather Group out of Charleston, South Carolina. Stay warm and finish your prep now, and we'll ride this out together. And stay frosty, my friends. Take care.